and a little ways away from home for a lot of you, but we do appreciate it. My name is Jeff Weevil. I'm the president of Colorado Soccer. We wanted to have this meeting because we wanted to chat about issues that are going on with the Altitude Soccer Club, see what we can find for common ground, give the board an opportunity to hear from everybody so that the board can evaluate and discuss it and try to see what it can do to help resolve the issues that have come up with the Altitude Soccer Club. With me tonight, at the very end, is Adam Hayes. He's a board member from Boulder FC. Marley Wilson used to be the chief operating officer of Colorado Soccer. He is now one of the general managers of U.S. Youth Soccer, the national organization. Right next to me is Nate Schott, who's the CEO of Colorado Soccer. And on this side is Joel LaRussa, who is, what are you associated with? None. Joe's family history runs long in soccer. He's also a private attorney and as a board member as well. So what the board members are here to do is to listen, to ask questions. And without a whole lot more, I will turn this over to Nate to lay down the ground rules. He is going to be the moderator as such for tonight.
That's a kind word. I just wanted to go over just a few things. I'm going to use my glasses too, so I'm looking up and down so I can read this. This meeting is just set up for us to state the facts, kind of come up with set all of the board members that are here. We're going to be putting down all the facts that we find out tonight, and then we're going to take those facts and share them with the board of Altitude, make recommendations for both groups, and hear both groups out tonight. As we start the meeting, I'd like to remind everybody that we're here in the best interest of the players. And that's what sometimes we forget. We get all tied up with all the adult stuff that's going on. We're here for the players. And we need to make sure those kids are playing no matter what we have to do. That's why we're here tonight. So let's try to keep that in mind as we proceed. Just a simple reminder, maybe silence your phones too during the meeting so they're not ringing. I am just as guilty as everybody else. I'm going to take a look real quick at silence. The role of CSA tonight is to listen to all parties, and certainly after taking it all in is to make recommendations that the CSA board sees fit. And we'll be sharing those with everybody. This will be a meeting that will be held in an orderly fashion, and anyone that gets to the point of not maintaining that will be asked to leave the room. The meeting is to establish facts and not just a complaining session. So we want to be able to state the facts of everything that's going on so we can come to some conclusions. The room is set up so that we can have some discussions with each other. Everybody in the room still has the opportunity to ask questions, even if you're back sitting in those chairs. You will have the opportunity to ask questions at any given time. But I will call on people. I will call on people, so raise your hand. I don't want people talking over each other. You cannot address us until I address you. Does that make sense for everybody? Very good.
Are we allowed to address the board directly?
Yes, I mean, this is dialogue for each other. So we can have some dialogue between each other.
No, I was talking to him.
So,
Thank you.
This meeting will run no longer than the 2 hours that we affiliated for a lot of reasons. One, they'll kick us out anyway. Afterwards, we would ask that the board members and myself, Jeff, say stick around so we can have some discussion. To start the meeting, we have had several items that wanted to be addressed. We will begin with that. One was regarding the financials and status of the 501c3. So I thought we'd begin with conversations and also about any further procedures to do due process. With all that being said, we are recording the meeting so that we can send this out to everybody, so everybody will have a copy, and we're videoing this as well. All right, that will be shared with everybody. So with that, I would turn it over to Dave, Mark, whoever's going to do the first talking.
Couple other points. I did not introduce him tonight, and I always mess up his last name, but he's the Chief Operating Officer of Colorado Soccer. And then secondly, there are soft drinks, cookies and stuff like that on that little inlet and that one right there, so please help yourselves. And we'll go ahead.
Right. Yes.
In the binder is a list of documents that Greg Hartman and David Huerta have asked for. First tab is 3 years of financials, 17-18, 16-17, and 15-16. The next tab is the Form 990s, just to get it 100% accurate. We have for our accounting, we have 12 months to file our 16-17 990 that from our end of fiscal year, which ended on 5/31. The 5/31 16-17 990 has been filed with the IRS and it has been accepted. The 17-18 form, which is in there now, was filed today electronically. So again, we're like well within that. Next tab is the Colorado Charities Solicitation Act. When we filed this one about a year ago, we filed it one time and we filed it so that we could get on the Colorado Goods donation. We had no idea that we needed to file it yearly. It has now been updated and is now in good standing. You can see it's in good standing as of 10/24. And this is just a screenshot of the charitable page from the Colorado State Secretary page. Once we have filed this is good for the full year. I met with the Secretary of State Representatives. Once this was filed and accepted, this was good for the full year, even if we were having events before this was filed. Next, and some of these don't mean as much, but they were requested by Greg Hartman and for David Huerta. These are the articles of incorporation that were filed in, I believe, 1977, and I just pulled them off the Secretary of State website. Next page, or the next tab, is a 1023-1024. The 1023 is the form that we get from the IRS, and we did not have a copy of it. We reached out to past board members. But what you do have in there is the form that we sent to the IRS that will send us that. It takes 4 to 6 weeks to get it. And we've requested it. If you look at box 9, it says exemption determination letter and affirmation letter, which is the 1023-1024. The next page in there is the affirmation letter saying that we are a 501(c)(3) determination letter. And as soon as we get the 1023, I will forward it on to you. But it was sent out on 10/18 on the day you requested it. So as soon as I get it, I will forward it on to you electronically, if that's okay with you. Next tab is our bylaws. I know we've sent them out and they're on our website, but I decided to include it in there.
Are those the current ones that were redone, or are those the old ones that I came in under in 2015?
These are the most current.
When were they last changed, please?
You got that? It looks like the last one was July 8, 2015 was the last change. There is an update that hasn't been reflected yet. It is on total number of board members, but as soon as that comes back, we'll add that.
When was that new one created? That's not on the website yet.
You mean when was it changed?
Yeah, when was it changed or
From 8
created?
board members to 5, at our last meeting.
I think the last meeting, board meeting. Okay. And that's recorded in the minutes, and we have access to that?
Yeah, but those minutes don't get posted until they get approved.
Okay.
The minutes go on the website
Okay.
after we get approved at the next meeting,
Okay.
and then
So there's a last.
before we
Are
clap.
all board members recorded? But board meeting was recorded?
Recorded, like, with a video camera or?
No, well, we know if there's board meetings or not.
I'm not understanding the question, I'm sorry.
Okay, hold on, remember what I said.
Okay.
Right, we want to keep this orderly fashion. Board minutes being recorded, similar to what we would do, that once you get them approved, then they're there. And he also, he's asking if you do an audio so you can hear what you want to do.
We do not do an audio or video recording. We have all of our approved minutes on the next tab. It's the pink one that says 2018 minutes. And it has all the way through October 15th in there.
Through October 15th?
Through October 15th.
Okay, I have a question here.
Are these the finalized financials for 2015, 2016, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019?
Correct.
Okay. Just quickly glancing at this, do you know why we have expenses in the revenue category by any chance? Such
You
as
wanna get into the-
academy camp fees?
Or you wanna then finish?
Well, yeah.
Let's just go and let him finish with what he's doing
Okay.
before we open it up to any more questions. So you have the floor and no one else is speaking to you now.
Next tab is all the minutes for 2018. The minutes for the website, or I think it's through 2012 are on the website right now, the most current minutes. And then the last page is a policy page, and this is what the current board is working on right now. We're not looking to amend any bylaws. We're looking to add policies, and the policies would be a conflict of interest policy, a dismissal policy, grievance and conflict resolution policy, and a confidentiality policy. Again, we don't have those, but those are the 4 policies we're adding as a way to govern how we handle our business and not changing bylaws.
Do you have anything to add right now? So now I will open it up to further questions.
Who from the board is here, because I only see 3 people that I recognize. It's Jen Davis, Mark Burping.
He's not on board.
No, he's not on the board, correct. Everybody knows he's the executive director. You're David Stewart, who's the guy next to you?
My name's Garth.
Garth Farrell, why isn't the attorney here, David?
Represents the club.
He represents the club, perfect, thank you. And so they're not on the board or anything? Okay.
Where are we on
Yeah, is there a secretary?
Where's the treasurer?
The secretary sent Jeff a letter and talked to him. From the last meeting that we had, she said that she wanted it done in a different manner. She didn't feel safe. She felt that in the last meeting there was threats going on. And so she was willing to go by phone.
No, I was talking to, I want you to be able to talk.
Okay. She wanted to go by phone for a different format. And then Mark Martin couldn't be here due to the fact that his thing was scheduled with a 5 or 6 day notice, and he had other stuff going on.
What about Matt Castle?
Oh, same thing.
Same thing, what?
He just had another event. I don't know exactly what it was.
And for the record, I would like to say that the people represent the club, not an attorney. Am I ready to go, Nate?
Any more?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, listen, anybody, this is an open meeting. It's set up for anybody to come,
Right.
you know, so I'm not gonna disqualify anybody, and I don't really wanna take any remarks about that, so
Okay.
let's just go ahead and move into more. If you're on the table, that's no problem. Yes, sir, absolutely.
My name is David Huerta. When I first emailed Mark Burping on an Exhibit 1, that the board has, all the exhibits have been emailed to the board, about the bail house that was being auctioned off at the golf tournament, I had no idea it would escalate to where we are today, but it has. It was through my initial communication to the known board that I knew, members, and the first meeting that I had with David Stewart, that I became very concerned about the operation and leadership of AFC. Subsequent and objective research only served to unveil what you're going to see tonight. Abuse of families, abuse of kids, abuse of financials, abuse of their own bylaws, and abuse of power. I want to thank CSA for recognizing the need for their intervention to protect our kids in the game of soccer in the Evergreen Conifer area. I also want to thank my friends and personal advisors for their guidance and encouragement over the last few weeks. An altitude coach gave me the following advice once I realized there was no turning back. He said, David, always take the high road and remember the kids, because that's what this is about, the kids. Love you guys. Lastly, I want to thank everybody here for taking time to tell their powerful stories, painful stories. For those of you that don't know, the Altitude Board is composed of 3 officers. Only one is here tonight. President David Stewart, Treasurer Matt Castle, and Jessica J., Secretary. These officers are in no particular order: a banker, a lawyer, and a financial professional. There are also 2 directors at large. One director at large does not have any players on the team in the club, on a team in the club. This director resigned from the AFC board when he was president of the board. At some point after resigning, this person, having been known to the current officers, was telephonically voted in by David Stewart, Matt Castle, and Jessica J., while the other 2 board members at that moment in time, Gary DeWitt and Jonathan Ramsey, I don't know if you're here, there's Jonathan, abstained from voting because, like Jessica requested tonight, they wanted a different procedure to be followed. Gary and Jonathan were subsequently removed from the board by quorum. The second director at large, Jennifer Bayless, is a recent addition to the board. Jennifer also coaches 3 teams and has a true passion to make this club successful. The board of directors and executive director have not complied with the mission statement of Altitude Bylaws, Exhibit 2, which is teaching the importance of sportsmanship and fair play, more importantly, providing a safe and fun environment. In Exhibit 3, we identified additional bylaws breaches committed by the executive director and the board of directors. For those that have not seen the exhibit, I'll give you a quick summary or examples. Altitude bylaws state that there will be a minimum of 8 directors. They just announced that they're changing it to 5. There will be an annual notice to members to elect their board of directors. The first one in 3 years I received was a week ago, and I'm not even a member. Proxy voting is allowed during the general member election. I don't recall ever seeing one. Treasurer requirements, treasurer being Matt Castle, includes review of all receipts and expenditures on a monthly basis and to present a written report at the monthly board of directors meeting. We have emails from Jessica J. stating that she's never seen financials. Treasurer responsible for ensuring that all tax documentation is gathered and returned to filed on a timely basis. I'm glad you guys are finally doing that. In a recent letter to Altitude families, David Stewart states that Altitude has over 700 families. Altitude pays Evergreen Parks and Recreation field access fees on a per player basis. Ellen O'Connor is the executive director of EPRD. I asked Ellen if she could provide the player numbers reported by AFC to EPRD for field access. EPRD's controller pulled the EPRD records reported by AFC, Altitude Football Club. Ellen submitted and confirmed yesterday on the phone: fall season 2016, 538 players. Fall season 217, 536 players. Fall season 2018, 495. The numbers reported to EPRD certainly don't align with the 700 families reported by David Stewart. The EPRD numbers also show a decreasing trend in registered players. So where are the missing players? Altitude has expanded to Castle Rock. I'm not sure CSA was made aware of Altitude and Evergreen-based club expanding into the Castle Rock Park area. Mark Burfing is the high school soccer coach at Castle View. You'll have to ask Mark and the board of directors why this happened. We have our thoughts, and since it is speculation, we're withholding comment. What we do know is that the executive director and board of directors have a separate membership fee for those players. Exhibit 5 is my payment to Altitude for my daughter, Aubrey, for $800 for 1 season. Any other high school player in here? You guys know that. 2 parents in the Castle Rock Club confirmed that the fee for a single player paid by a Castle Rock player is $350. For the record, over the last 5, and this is important because I've been claimed to be a lot of things. In fact, Monica Stewart yesterday in an email said that the purpose of this meeting is for us to join another club and to force members down the hill. That email couldn't be more far off. The purpose of this meeting is not to join another club. It's to strengthen Altitude for our kids. For the record, over the last 5 out of 6 Altitude seasons, I have personally donated over 150 hours of time on the practice field and on the sidelines with Pete Satchel. Peter, is that true?
Yes.
When I was in Tampa, I worked with many nonprofit organizations, including as a board member for Mr. DeBarlo, former owner of the 49ers, and Mr. Derek Brooks, Hall of Famer. My wife and I volunteered and ran over 20 golf tournaments for nonprofit associations. We willingly give our time to causes we believe in. I am confident that the people who know me, especially my friends, would not characterize me as entitled, selfish, unbridled, or self-serving as insinuated. The AFC board claims that I, David Huerta, breached their procedures, their bylaws, defamed the reputation of AFC, made false statements regarding their financials, promised to select few coaches security of their positions, and contacted Channel 31. I deny each and every one of those allegations and consider them yet to be another example of AFC's leadership seeking to silence critics rather than to openly and professionally address legitimate concerns. Did I breach procedures defined by altitude bylaws? I followed AFC procedures to a T by sending an email to the board members that I knew existed. My emails were brushed aside. It took a week. I replied them all. It soon became clear that the bylaws were being used to shield them and from accountability and leadership. Exhibit 7 shows that when I learned that David Stewart was president of the board, we communicated, and included on my communication to the board, David Stewart invited me to a one-on-one meeting at El Rancho. At this meeting, Stewart did not shake my hand. He immediately defended Burfing, you can deny it all you want, and threatened my daughter's reputation with her high school coach, Peter James, who's in attendance today. In his follow-up email to me, from Stewart, I noticed that he offered to speak one-on-one with those members that had expressed concern. I recognize this as an attempt to isolate each person without a witness, and I could not let that happen to anybody, especially when they trusted me. Once Stewart did not respond to a simple question posed to him regarding Mark Burfing, I realized that he was attempting to push me under the carpet, and I soon found out this was how he and the board had treated others in the past who also had legitimate questions. Monica's email was correct in that the four of us no longer are members of Altitude. We were thrown out of Altitude by David Stewart and Mark Burfing. One thing I've learned through experience, that in order to force a bully to listen, you have to adopt different tactics. I believe others have been bullied into quitting and into silence. However, I was determined that me and my family would not let that happen. At this point, the writing was on the wall. It was game on. The play yard rules of the bully were going to be ignored. That was a conscious decision I made. Did I defame the reputation of AFC? I did not. A reputation is created over time, not over a 4-week period. I've come to understand that the reputation of AFC has been affected by the leadership's bullying tactics, lack of transparency, lack of responsiveness, and lack of accountability. Most critically, the club's reputation is reflected by the leadership's willingness to tell a child that they're no longer welcome to enjoy a game of soccer with their teammates because that child's family has requested what is expected of an accountable board. And I'm shaken because I'm really upset. We see that AFC has earned a poor reputation is because of the actions of their leadership. We simply wanted transparency, respect, responsiveness, effective management, accountability, and a safe and positive environment for our kids to play soccer. Did I make false statements about financials and compliance with regulatory agencies? I did not. Based at that moment in time, I gave nothing but facts. Did I promise to select few coaches security of a position? Coaches, please listen. Initially, I was only aware of a few coaches, Scott Rose, George Hunt, Jen Jackson, Bo Jackson, and Peter James. I did not know that there were other coaches. I was simply ignorant of that because my daughter's in high school. I take full accountability and responsibility for my lack of knowledge. There was no intent to insinuate that unnamed coaches would not have their position in the spring. I am sorry if this caused any concerns, and I state boldly, I would not want to disrupt any coach-player relationship that is diametrically opposed to my personal beliefs and the spontaneous mission that we're on right now. When a child, regardless of rank or competition, loves their coach, that relationship must be fostered, protected, nourished. It should not be disrupted. Coaches should not be forced to resign. The attorney hired by David Stewart and his board, which by the way we're all paying for, Garth, sent me a cease and desist letter, which is an exhibit to CSA. In this letter, Garth states, Altitude FC is compliant with all regulatory agencies as it works with its CPA firm, Sievers and Associates, and its legal counsel to ensure that all requirements for a 501c3 organization are met. As of that date, I don't think you were. Caleb will be addressing that fiduciary requirements were ignored, AFC bylaws were breached. Garth stated in his cease and desist to me that Altitude is transparent and always responds to requests for information. Tonight we got our information. In the meantime, we were fired from the club. Families may be removed from AFC when actions harm the reputation of the club. That's what Garth says. 10 days ago, my family was removed from the club. Other families were removed or bullied out of the club in the past when questions were asked about club's management and financial records. I'm going to tell you my story right now. I'm in Tampa 2 weeks ago, and I get an email from these guys telling me that I am no longer a member of Altitude. I get that email, my stomach sinks. Okay, great. How's my daughter? I call Peter Jeans. Peter Jeans says, Aubrey's right here. I said, great, Peter. Did you hear from Berfine? Yes, I did, and don't worry about it. I got her. Here's what transpired. And I'd like to know, who on the board voted to remove the Huerta family? I ask them, please.
Entire board.
Can I see the vote, please?
It's in the minutes, it's not approved yet. I believe that it was an executive session.
Can you speak up, please?
I believe it was an executive session. I could be wrong, but I believe it was.
What's an executive session? I don't know, Nate. I don't know what an executive.
Executive session is when the board can go in and it's just the board members, it's not anybody else to talk about sensitive matters.
Okay, so do we know who of the Altitude board members are on that executive committee?
And it's be every one of the board members.
Everyone, so there's a record of every board member voting my family off,
And Mr. Harper.
and Mr. Hart. Under what pretext?
Can you speak up, please?
They fired me under the pretense of harming the club. A simple Google search finds the following. A nonprofit corporation must submit their financial statements, which include the salaries of directors, officers, and key employees to the IRS on Form 990. I believe we got something today. According to IRS public disclosure requirements, exempt organizations must make its 3 most recently filed annual 990s and all related supporting documents public data. Altitude's financials are not confidential to the organization, as David Stewart says in an exhibit that was sent to CSA. There should be due process to remove a member. They're addressing that after this event. Please note that extensive legal research regarding member removal from a nonprofit was conducted and nothing could be found to support this action. I gotta get back to my story. So I'm in Tampa, and I get this email. I call Peter Jeans. Peter says I got it covered. Here's what happened. Berfine calls Peter Jeans and says, is Aubrey Huerta on the field? Peter says, yes, she is. Get her off the field, she's no longer a member. Peter Jeans, in the manliness that he has, says, she's my goalie. Aubrey's done nothing wrong. Here's Peter Jeans right there. Thank you, Peter.
Very close. I want to make sure I want to make sure this is a good faith telling, because it's a good story. So I'm Peter Jeans, and I do coach David's daughter, Aubrey. And I'm a club coach. The call that I got from Mark was at about 3:45 that afternoon. What Mark told me was, we've removed the Huerta family and therefore Aubrey from your team. I was in a public place. I did not comment very much to Mark other than to say, hey, I disagree with this. And then at about 4 o'clock, I texted Mark twice. I said, Mark, I disagree with this. We should talk later. And I also said, will that, on the previous phone call, I said, Mark,